Barakatay Hawa, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. Yahushai. The name of this one is M.O.T.B, the badge of servitude. And I was thinking about doing a lesson on this last couple of days, kind of been meditating on it. And pretty much this morning, I wanted to go for a walk, but had somewhat of a restless night, so I really didn't get that much sleep. But I was watching this video here by the young elder from Vegas. Without the M.O.T.B, you'll be cut off from a prosperous or social life. The temptation won't be easy. And pretty much it gave me, more motivation through the Spirit to do this lesson and to kind of build off of his lesson, because he in here, highlighted a particular commentary in the Bible Hub, in the style of Elder Apostle Tar. And pretty much I wanted to kind of build off of this because it kind of leads right into the type of lesson that I had wanted to go into. But I guess sometimes you'll have ideas for lessons and, certain things, the Spirit has you wait for a certain, some extra gravy, so to speak. And this just happens to be the extra gravy. So what I did yesterday was I had typed this in, like I said, I've been kind of building through the Spirit this lesson. I typed in badge of servitude meaning, and it came up a little different on the computer than it did on my phone, which this is actually more to the point, which I like better anyway. So the meaning of badge of servitude is and why did I look up the term badge of servitude? Well, because when we go to Revelation 13:16, yes, another video on the M.O.T.B, you can change the channel, move on, step off. When we go to the word M-A-R-K, which is important to go into not just the word M-A-R-K, but also the origin of language. Because when you look at the word M-A-R-K, it appears several times in the New Testament. And sometimes it appears as the Greek word charagma. Sometimes it appears as the Greek word skopeo. Sometimes it appears as the name Mark himself, the name Mark, the disciple. Which I just read some bullshit, which I'm not even going to trouble you with. But in the case of Revelation, this word only appears in the book of Revelation, the word charagma, except for one time in the book of Acts, where it also describes something being sculpted. And when you sculpt something, you have a chisel and you cut into stone or wood or whatever, whatever you're cutting into to make idols. So when we look up this word, the word charagma, right? It has root words, but we're just going to deal with this here. It says a stamp or imprinted mark. Now what I want to do is jump down here to this part here. It says the same as G5482, which that's the word karax. It says a scratch or etching. An example, stamp as what? A badge of servitude. Now bear with me 1 second, because I meant to look this up before we started, but I just wanted to get on the way. I just want to bring this up just to see what it says. I didn't get a chance to actually look into it. I'm sure we looked it up before. Alright, so I'm just going to save that for a little later, whenever the Spirit has. So the point was, as a badge of servitude, this is a scratch or etching, an example, a stamp. And what does that mean? That means ownership. Alright, ownership. Because here it says badge of servitude meaning a legal disability imposed on a slave, right? Because Why does it disable you? Because it strips you of all of your rights. Because you are no longer a human being, you are property. And this is why Esau, I was watching the Elder Mwatazak's video last night, and he was highlighting, for lack of better words, a rapper by the name of Immortal Technique. And it prompted me to do a little more research into Immortal Technique. And he's pretty much a conscious rapper that, that's why you don't hear too much of him, except for underground, because he speaks on a lot of political, social, economic, world issues, and he was being interviewed by this Edomite woman, and he was going in, on the treatment that Judah received in this, the southern kingdom received in this country, and the so-called Latin tribe, the natives, the treatment that they received from Esau, how they had breeding farms, so on and so forth, and how he said that they were classified, as not, fully being human or something along those lines, because they didn't want to afford them the same legal rights biblically that Esau was enjoying, but it goes much deeper than that. The reason why is because of the curses. We're under curses. Now I checked them out, okay. Immortal Technique, he's from Peru, and his parents moved, I believe when he was around 2 years old. They moved to Harlem to escape. I forgot, something was going on down there, and they moved to Harlem. That's why he grew up in New York, so he goes into a lot of conscious things, so this is pretty much the reason why there are disabilities, and it's really because of the curses of the scriptures. But it says a legal disability imposed on a slave, such as the inability to vote, own property, or enter into a contract. Why? Because he is property. And when you are property, you have no rights. This is what the whole issue with branding slaves was all about. Just like you brand, your cattle, your horses, things that belong to you. They bore your seal, your coat of arms. It says a brief history of human branding. Some branding has been done to others to signify ownership and or as punishment. Human slaves are often branded as property. And this is what Esau is doing right now with this M.O.T.B, which is the microchip, whether it's implanted in the hand, the forehead, any part of the body, the hip, the back, the butt, the foot, the toe, the ankle, wherever. It's all signification of property, ownership. And each one of those devices has a special number, and that you best believe that special number is going to be assigned to those so-called elite, that own this property. Because just like they owned the slaves back then, they plan on owning the world today. Right? It says the ancient. Hey, my man, you gotta chill out with all that. It's in our food and all that. Chill out with that. All right. Regardless of wherever it is, don't worry about that. The Lord, gonna take care of it. If you're new to this, just be quiet, watch, and learn, or you can just move on to another video. Sure, they got booty shaking videos out there you can learn from or get into. All right. It says we're not concerned with all that other stuff. It says the ancient Romans branded runaway slaves with the letters FVJ, G, which is fugitive, meaning fugitive. Criminals throughout history were branded for their crimes. See, so this is pretty much what they did. So pretty much the history of human branding is a stamp of ownership, and this is what they're moving into in the in the future, is to brand everyone with these so-called micro C-hips, all right, which is the MOTB, all right. So going back here, it says, what is a badge of servitude? All these disabilities were designed not merely to preserve a system of bondage to service, but to serve as badges of servitude, symbolizing the slaves' degraded status. This is why they couldn't vote, they couldn't read, they couldn't write, they had no rights, they couldn't buy property, so on and so forth. This is why Klaus Schwab said, you will own nothing and be happy. Why? Because you're going to be commodities. You're going to be no different than an orange or pork belly or one of those commodities that is traded on the open stock exchange. It says, in a moment of racist candor, Chief Justice Roger B. Taney extended this view of the stigmatized, and this is a very important word, stigmatized status of slaves to all black persons, slave or free. See, because it was a stigma. And what do the scriptures say? The scriptures say that we would be a proverb and a byword. Let's go real quick to that. Deuteronomy. And this is what, now I'm pretty sure, since Immortal Technique is from, he was raised up in Harlem. I'm pretty sure he's heard of the Israelites, especially in Harlem. So he should know that we're, as a people, are under curses, and that's the whole reason why there was no status. This is the whole reason why, our people were described as 3/5 of a man, not a man, property, animals, so on and so forth. Just like when the Spaniards came over to this side of the world, they labeled the indigenous people here, which were the Northern Kingdom, as savages. This is why they burned records. This is why they did the things that they did, because you cannot call somebody a savage if they have written records. You cannot call somebody savages if they're living peacefully among each other. Now, were there wars among the tribes? Yes, they were, for whatever the reasons were. But for the most part, there was amity, between some of them. There were, trading between them. You had, some of them had historical records that were written. They were speaking the Hebrew language. This is why Christopher Columbus brought Hebrew interpreters with him, But here in Deuteronomy 28:37, it says, and thou, meaning you Israelites, shall become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. And this is why we had no status, why we were classified as savages and animals, so on and so forth. When we look up the word astonishment, the word there is shema. It says waste, horror, appallment. Right, so when you look at Jake in the ghetto, in the barrios, wherever they be, it's like a waste, a horror, an appallment. People are appalled when they look at Jake in this condition. But this is a condition that we were brought down to from royalty to peasants because of our breaking of the law, statutes, and commandments, which goes a lot deeper. It was programmed that way. But the point is that this is the reason for these punishments. So waste, horror, appallment. That's why we're in astonishment. They're looking at us like who the hell are these people? We get no love. He gets no love from the man. The word proverb is mashal. It says proverb, parable, proverb, proverbial saying, aphorism. Like you have eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a piggy by the toe. Well, pretty much they had different so-called, for lack of better words, nursery rhymes for the Israelites. 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indian, so on and so forth. Aphorism is a pithy observation that contains a general truth, such as, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. A concise state, right? So this is, and they place these, these things upon the Israelites, well, this goes into something else, which is but it's a proverb. So we became an astonishment, a proverb, and what? A byword. Shana Yanah. Sharp word, sharp cutting word. Taunt, see? Jibe. So it was a taunt. So we became like a taunting to these, they mocked us. They taunted us. They called us all different types of names. They called us slaves and, whatever. And pretty much that brought our status down. It says a remark made in order to anger, wound, or provoke someone. Like when they call us niggas, spics, spooks, wetbacks, tontos, so on and so forth. Here it is, as Elder Apostle Rakab brought out years ago, you have the name M.O.T.B, which I forgot what M.O.T.B meant, which was applied to the Lone Ranger, which the Lone Ranger, the actual Lone Ranger, was actually a so-called black man. He was an Israelite. And then you had, but they paint him as a white man, so-called white man, an Edomite. And then you had the so-called Indian, which was Gad. They call him Tonto. Tonto is Spanish for like an idiot. Tonto, idiot. You see? So a mark we made to, in order to anger, wound, or provoke someone, right? And it's a wound. This is why it speaks about, let's go to Isaiah chapter 1 and let's start at 3. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. These are the two work animals, dumb animals, but they know who their owner is. They know where they live. But Israel does not know. My people does not consider. So the Israelites don't consider who their power is. Their power is Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Sinful nation. So the Lord called us a sinful nation. This is why Isaiah said, he was a man of unclean lips. And here it is. He's a prophet, a great man of the Lord. And he said that. It says a people laden with iniquity. When you laden with iniquity, that means that iniquity is loaded and compounded on top of each other, which sin on top of sin is iniquity, transgressions. That's multiple sins. It says a seed of evildoers, children that are what? Corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. And this is why we find ourselves in the condition and situations that we're in today. Why should you be stricken anymore? You will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick. See? So it says the whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. So the whole head is sick. So a taunt is a remark made in order to anger, wound, or provoke someone. So we've become a wound because the whole head is sick. This is why in the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, it spoke about Lazarus being full of sores. It wasn't that he was leprous or he had all different types of sores on him. That was a parable, and the sores represent the hardships that we go through in our communities. Being, as we used to speak about and still do, last hired, first fired, last hired, first fired, getting the worst jobs out there, not having any jobs, being unemployed, just a whole list of hardships that come upon Jake, and physically also the Israelites, especially today, are suffering from more of the curses going into the sicknesses that are written within the curses. The inflammation, which that's all disease, all causes diseases. It says from the sole of the foot even unto the head, there is no soundness in it, meaning the whole body, meaning all of the tribes are sick. There is no soundness in it. The word sound, it speaks about, the word sound is speaking about, someone that's sound of mind or sound of body, means they're healed. So we as a nation are not sound, but we're sick, as a nation. And now the Lord is he sent his word to start healing, the healing process. This is why brothers now and sisters that are coming into this thing are starting to be healed by the word. It says, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores, right? So these wounds and bruises and putrefying sores are a generational thing. From generation to generation, all of these things carry on. And what your parents and their parents and their parents and their parents and their parents learned is what they taught their children. and they carry on that same legacy. And the legacy is a legacy of shame, with the eating of the pork, with the degenerate acting of the young men and women of our nation out there. All of what you see right now is a total degeneration of our nation. And this is why the Lord got mad. He says they have not been clothed. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick. Let's go to Jeremiah 2 and we'll come back and finish that up. Jeremiah 2 and 20. It says, for of old time I have broken. Matter of fact, it just goes. No, you know what? For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands. Right, because we went into captivity under all nations on the planet Earth, and the Lord delivered us from all of them. So this time he said, you know what? I'm going to take my name away from you. I'm going to take my mercy away from you. You're not even going to be a people unto me. So we were pretty much fucked until the Lord, decided that, okay, that's enough. I'm going to have mercy on them now, and sent a man by the name of Elder Abba Bivens, and put the spirit on Jake to get into, the Torah and things of that nature, because they all played a part in it. Going back, finding out that they were Israelites, but then the Lord used a man by the name of Elder Abba Bivens to break away from the commandment keepers and to teach him and build him up in the ways, of the New Testament, and, coupled, of course, with the Holy Spirit, was, set in motion what we are teaching today, which some call the One West teachings. And thou saidest, I will not transgress when upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest playing the harlot. And this is what Jake did. What does it mean, playing the harlot? The Most High is married unto us, so we're married unto the Most High. And when we go and deal with other religions, worshiping other idols, we become a harlot or a prostitute. And that's what happened. And this is why we're found in this condition and situations that we're in. It says, yet I had planted thee a noble vine. So we were nobility. The Lord said that he would set us on high above all nations. And the nations would look at us and marvel and be in awe of us because of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that we possess because of what was given to us by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Because the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, the law, statutes, and commandments separated us or made us holy, separated us from all these other nations. But when we turned left at Albuquerque, inside joke, this is what happened. Holy at right seed. So we were holy at right seed. The whole nation was blessed in righteousness. So it says, and how was that done? Through the law, statutes, and commandments that the Lord gave us as an instruction. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? So we became like heathens. That's why it also says that, Israel shall be among the heathens as a vessel wherein is no pleasure. All right. So going back to Isaiah 1 and 6, from the sole of the foot even to the head, there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. So basically, we were not purified. We were not, cleansed. But now we're going through the cleansing process. This is why right now we are considered a proverb, an astonishment, a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. All right? And that's why to this very day, we are still considered slaves. And this is why these devils plan on, inserting this device into the hand or forehead or wherever of the world, because they want, permanent slaves, which is lifelong slaves, because they know that the Bible speaks about the all. It knows it speaks about, once you inserted that all, you belong to that master for life. And this is what they're doing. They're trying to claim their stake through the micro C-hip, which is the charagma or the M.O.T.B. All right. So it says, Chief Justice Roger B. Taney extended this view of the stigmatized status of slaves to all black persons, slave or free. All right. Now, before we get into some of these other precepts, This is where the brother was reading from, the young elder Karatazar from Vegas. The Bible Hub Expositors Greek Testament, right? And I wanted to get some of this out of here because it was heavy, and I want to kind of, like I said, build on it because it goes hand in hand with the lesson, which the lesson is M.O.T.B, the badge of servitude. So it says, all right, so right here it says, because it has some Greek writing, right? It says, only abject servile devotees of the cultists will stoop to that. Irenaeus has a similar allusion to those who carried money, cum inscriptionem et imagine cesaria, or however you say that in the Greek. I mean, in the Latin. In the Latin, metopon, that's forehead. Then that's Greek for forehead. This highly figurative allusion is to the habit of marking soldiers. See, marking. Why? Because this is your property. When you go out and you survey land and you buy a plot of land, they put stakes in the land because that is you claiming your stake. You bought this plot of land. This belongs to you. So the karax, which is the root word of karagma, is the device that they're going to use to insert this title of ownership, which is the badge of servitude. As we read here, for the word karagma as a badge of what? Servitude. All right. So it says, where are we? It says, marking soldiers and what? Slaves with a conspicuous tattoo or brand. Right? Which they go into, I believe this is dealing with, 3rd Maccabees 2:29, where the Alexandrian Jews are branded with the mark of Dionysius, which was the ivy leaf. Also on Galatians 6:17, which I love going here because this goes heavier into it. Because when we go back to Revelation 16, when we jump down, because it speaks of, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the MARK or the charagma or the name of the beast or the number of his name, which is all tied into the same thing. You have the beast system, you have the number, which the number explains to you what the number is. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man, and his number is 666, which is 666. And when you look at this word 666, there are 3 Greek letters, chi, psi, stigma. But when you go to the chi, psi, stigma in the dictionary to find out what it means, it doesn't really break it down. It just gives you, the number. It also gives you the letters in the Greek, but it doesn't really break it down. It just gives you 666. All right. But when you look at the numbers, chi, psi, stigma, the letter stigma or the 6 is the one that's very important, to know, because that stigma or that 6, as you see here, stigma, is also highlighted in the book of Galatians 6, as they pointed out in that lesson, which we've done lessons, in that commentary, which we've done lessons on this many times. And when you go back to the origins of this, because the Apostle Paul said, Galatians 6:17, from henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahushua. And in this case, this word for marks, this is why you have to go to the Greek, is a different word than charagma, than scopeo, than the name Mark. The word there for marks, when you go to it, is the word stigma, which is the last letter in the number of the beast, chi, psi, stigma. Right? And that's why it's important to go into it, And now when you read this, the Apostle Paul was applying this to himself spiritually because of the things he was going through, and that was a badge on him that he was a disciple of Yahushua. But when you go back to the origins of that stigma, it was an actual imprinted mark in our Lord Yahushua, in his hands, in his feet and on his side. This is why he told Thomas to stick his hand in the holes of his finger and put his hand in his side. You know? And then he said, my power, my God and my Lord. You know? But these were actual marks. So when you go to that word stigma, which is the last of the letters in the 666 Chi Psi stigma, right? The word stigma there, it says to stick. It says stizo, to stick, an example, prick, which is also the second part or the root word to the word charagma, which is charax, to stick or prick, right? It says a mark pricked in or branded upon the body. Why? Because it was set up as, you know, a badge to show your loyalty, who you were loyal to or who you belong to. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name of this or the stamp of the master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to. And this is why when you take this device, it's going to show ownership. This is why we warn vehemently over and over and over and over and over and over and over again not to do it, not to take it. When it comes down to this is where the great time of testing is going to come. And this is why, as the young elder put here, without the M.O.T.B, you'll be cut off from a prosperous or social life. The temptation won't be easy. Why? Because everybody is so used to operating online. Everybody's going to be so, most people today don't even carry cash on them. Very few people do that. Most of the transactions are all digital. They're done through credit cards, debit cards, off of phones, different apps, you know, transferring money through Venmo or, you know, or Cash App, you know, or that's how that's the wave of the future. That's why everything is going digital. You see? So going back here, it says the Alexandrian Jews are branded with the mark of Dionysus, also in Galatians 6:17, or better still, to the religious custom of wearing a god's name as a talisman. Right, because they showed who you were devoted to. And when you take this MARK, it's going to show your allegiance. This is why we tell you don't take it. And this is why we curse some other groups out, because they're not warning you not to take it. They're telling you that it's not the MOTB. Therefore, they're putting your mind at ease. So when it comes and you are faced with either taking it to be able to work or drive or eat, you're not going to know to resist it, because these groups are telling you not to. But these groups are telling you that it's not the MOTB. You know, so we're telling you that it is an MOTB and not to take it. It says the general sense of the prediction is that the faithful will be shut up to the alternative of starving or of coming forward to avow their prohibited faith. So subtly and diabolically does the cultus of the emperor pervade all social life. See? So all social life is going to be predicated upon this MOTB. This is why the model for the world is what? China. Because of their social credit system that they've put in place. You know, these places that you could only get in if you have these devices, if you were in good standing with the government. It says another solution is to think that the charagma or red stamp, which was essential to all documents or exchange, because you had the wax that they would pour on certain documents, and the king would stamp it with his ring. It says it consisted of a red seal with the emperor's name of effigy. Takes the whole description as a symbolic and rather sarcastic way of referring to boycotting demand that every Asiatic Christian should somehow stamp himself overtly and visibly as loyal or be disqualified from participation in ordinary social life, and what? Trading, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the M-A-R-K. And this is why it's important to identify what this is so that you can avoid it. The Lord said, don't take it. He's displeased with somebody that takes it. And like the elder put, I'm going to read the scripture. He put it out there. You know, if you take it, the penalty is destruction. So if the Lord is displeased with something and he says, don't take it, will he not identify this thing that he's displeased with, that he says not to take? Or if you take it, you will be destroyed? How can you avoid taking something that you cannot identify? You have to be able to identify this thing that the Lord is displeased with, this thing that if you take it, the Lord is going to destroy you. You have to be able to identify it. This is why the Lord says, surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. Because the prophets are going to know. The prophets are going to be given the mystery. The prophets will be the ones that will be out there giving the warning not to take it. This is the wolf coming. Don't take it. Because if you take it, yeah, you're going to be in a good position for the moment. But when the Lord comes back, you're going to be in a bad position. You know, and pretty much it brought to mind these scenes here, you know, from the movie They Live. You can't even get the movie on you used to be able to watch it on YouTube, but now you got to buy or rent it. I'm not sure if they'll make, every once in a while, they'll make free movies, you know, they'll play free movies, pretty good movies sometimes. But this individual here, he used to be a part of, you know, the community of people that were against the government, but then he sold out. And in this particular scene, you know, he has a watch. I'm not sure if is this scene? Yeah. Well, there's another part where he actually has the watch. And then he clicks it and he disappears. But this is a symbolic for the micro C-hip, which is going to be inserted, you know. Now, this is another scene. A scene from They Live predicts full global control over the population by what? 2025. And these are the so-called social elite. When you watch this, I put these in the description box. You go watch it. And he's speaking and he's saying our projection show that by the year 2025, right, not only America but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance. What is that power alliance? The power alliance is dealing with the power alliance is dealing with the New World Order. It says gains have been substantial both for ourselves and for you, the human power. You have given us entry to the resources we need in our ongoing quest. And that's another name for the New World Order, the quest. For multi-dimensional expansion, right? Because it's a global thing. And in return, the per capita income of each of you here tonight has grown, and this year alone, by an average 39%. You know? So pretty much, it says here, see if we can pick it up again. Our predictions show that by the year 2025, what are we approaching? 2025. They had Agenda 2020. What's the next agenda? 2030. But they want to get things popping, oozing, and going in the digital sense by 2025. Not only America, but the entire planet will be into the protection and the dominion of this power alliance. Why? Because it's the so-called power elite, the international banking families, you know, that are pushing this plan, this agenda. But the Lord said he's going to thwart their plans. All right. So going back here, it says probably the passage is a figurative and unqualified expression of conspicuous loyalty to the imperial cult. No, it's something actual. Because in order for you to officiate the business, you have to have this particular charagma. to be able to function. This is why everything is going digital. This is why they've been pushing, going back, I believe 2005, probably before that, the micro C-hip, in people. You see, which back then was appalling to most people, but after many years of probing and putting out subliminals and putting it in movies and getting people used to it and seeing it and paying people to advertise it, it doesn't seem like such a bad idea now, because a lot of people are talking about doing it, especially this demon right here, Lil Duval, which Duval, I believe that means devil, Lil Devil, So let's see. It says the devil is said to work against Yahushai by excluding us from houses, baths, and markets, and also by forbidding any one of us to appear anywhere. Right, without this M.A.R.K., this charagma. Because what? It's a badge of servitude. And what did the slaves have? The slaves had this, the slave pass. I forget exactly what it was called. Matter of fact, let me type that in. Let's see. If brothers know what it's called, if Baba Kushav, you could put it on the comment board. Can't think of what it's called right now. Pretty much, like the slave pass, to be able to go from one place to another. You had to have that pass, which was a permission from your slave owner to travel, outside of the plantation. No, that goes into the scriptural one. But you brothers have seen it before. I guess I'm not wording it right. You've seen it before, how they have to have, you have a pass. In other words, you have to have a paper or something that was given to you by the master, where he gave you permission to leave from one plantation to another. Because if they found you out there, you had what was known as the slave catchers. And if you didn't have that permission with you in writing, then they knew that you, were potentially a runaway. And they would snatch your ass up, either lynch you or bring you back to the master that you belong to. And this is pretty much what the world is coming back to. Let me see. Guards and picket pass. Let's see. Just bear with me 1 second. Let me type this in. And then another brother put permission slip. Like you get at the fucking, when you're in school. You have a hall pass, boy. Guard and pickets. Paperwork of slavery. Welcome to Guards and Pickets. Paperwork of slavery. Here you will find. Come on, man. Just get to the. I hate when they do that. Here you'll find documents from Briscoe Center, American History, Natchez, Trace. All right, let me try slave permit. Well, you brothers get the idea. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen it in movies before. So, I mean, pretty much that's the main point. So a badge of servitude is all these disabilities were designed not merely to preserve a system of bondage to service, but to serve as badges of servitude, symbolizing the slave's degraded status. In a moment of racist candor, Chief Justice Roger B. Taney extended this view of the stigmatized status of slaves to all black persons, slave or free, right? Because that was, something that was pushed upon them. But today, in order for you to operate in this system, you're gonna have to have this device inserted in you in order to be able to function. That's why it says no man might buy or sell, and it even extends to being able to move in society. You see it, Moab, they got those cities set up where you could only leave from one place to the other if you have a device in you, or if you have your phone. It's an app, as Elder Pastor has been saying. They're going to make it an app, and eventually it's going to transfer into that, because all the app is pretty much a signal that you're getting from a particular person that makes that, and that's what the M.O.T.B is. The micro C-hip is nothing more than a device that receives and sends signals out. All right, so you brothers get the idea, but if you take that device, as the elder put the scripture earlier, Revelation 14, go straight to the point. It says, and the angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. Right, so you don't want to suffer that fate, so don't take it. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever. Why? Because this place is going to burn for a long time. And also, after it finishes burning, it's going to be written about. It's written about right here, but then it's going to also be written about. You don't think that all of these great historic events that took place in the past are all written in the, certain ones of them are written in the scriptures, and you don't think that the things that are happening now will be written in the future records? And they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth is the mark or the charagma of his name, which goes into the 666, goes into the name or the beast system, this whole setup that they got going on. The mark of the what? B. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.